Today, I'm going to beat Pokemon Platinum with only a Spiritomb. I'm really excited to play this Pokemon because in Generation 4, it has no weaknesses. The Ghost Dark type only starts having a weakness once Generation 6 introduces the Fairy type. Spiritomb is also a very defensive Pokemon, but its attacking stats aren't that bad either. It has 50 HP, 92 attack and special attack, 108 defense and special defense, and 35 speed. So it's a slow Pokemon with a little bit more bias towards defenses. However, its attacking stats still are really good in comparison with a bunch of other Pokemon that I do these solo challenges with. Also, being completely balanced between physical and special stats means that it has a lot of flexibility throughout the playthrough. It's got a medium fast growth rate, which is just fine, and then in terms of move pool, it has a lot of really good options. It starts with Pursuit, Confuse Ray, Spite, and Shadow Sneak. This is the perfect starting set since we get access to a Dark type move for coverage against normal Pokemon, which gets around one of the major flaws that most Ghost type Pokemon have in the early game. A good example of that is Ghastly in Pokemon Crystal, which has an absolutely brutal early game because of normal types and lack of coverage. Then through level up, Spiritomb gets access to a lot of good options. Feint Attack at only level 7, Hypnosis, one of my favorite moves, at level 13, and then to pair with the sleep inducing move, it gets Dream Eater at only 19. Ominous Wind at level 25 for Omni boosts. I personally don't really like Sucker Punch, which it learns at level 31. However, then it gets what I think is the best move in the game, Nasty Plot, at level 37. The only downside is that this boosts its special attack, and it hasn't learned that many special moves up until this point by level up. Only Dream Eater and Ominous Wind. But it gets Dark Pulse at level 49 so that it has a special dark move. And through TM and HM, it also gets access to other special coverage. Water Pulse, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Shockwave, and Silver Wind. Spiritomb's ability is Pressure, which depletes PP twice as fast when opponents are attacking it. I don't think this is the best ability for solo challenges, especially because once I get Nasty Plot, I'm just going to set up at the beginning of the battle and then sweep the opponent's remaining Pokemon. The early game for Spiritomb's pretty straightforward. Use Feint Attack or Pursuit against all normal type Pokemon, and I have Shadow Sneak to fall back on if I want priority against non-normal types. All three of the Generation 4 starters are not particularly well suited to take on Spiritomb. Also, Churro is making some incredibly strange sounds right now in the background, so maybe you'll hear a few of those sneaking through in this voiceover. Anyways, back to the starters. I wasn't entirely sure which one he should pick against me, since all of them are going to be fairly easy to beat, especially later into the game once I get Nasty Plot. I think Infernape is by far the worst because the fighting type is useless against the Ghost type, even though it otherwise would have been super effective against Spiritomb's Dark typing. Torterra is fairly slow, so I don't think that's a good option, and that left me with Empoleon, which is going to be a Steel type, and until Generation 6, the Dark and the Ghost type are resisted by it. While I have tried to stack the deck against Spiritomb, I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. I expect the rival will be very easy during this challenge. Okay, let's talk about the early game. The one question I had in my mind was what level is Spiritomb going to need in order to defeat Roark? If I level to 13, then I get access to Hypnosis, but using this status move outside of Generation 1 doesn't feel very good. 60% accuracy is just trash. By the way, there's one weird Generation 4 quirk that you should know about. In Diamond and Pearl exclusively, Hypnosis has 70% accuracy, but then this was reverted immediately when Platinum was released. You might be wondering if this would cause desyncs in Link battles, but it doesn't. The Platinum accuracy is just applied in that case. I sort of wish that they had kept this change since sleep moves ever since Generation 1 have not been that good. However, holding on to Hypnosis for the duration of this challenge may give me the solution to some incredibly difficult opponents in the late game. But I didn't want to rely on it here against Roark, so I fought every early game trainer to level up Spiritomb as much as possible. I also picked up the Quick Claw in Jubilife City, which I think is going to be a set it and forget it item, at least in the early game. Now, Spiritomb only has physical moves, and for this reason, I wasn't really confident going into the battle against Roark. Geodude is first. Feint Attack is doing just under half to it, but it sets up Stealth Rocks instead of attacking. And then when it goes for Rock Throw, it does very little damage because of my high defensive stats. I should also mention that Roark used one of his potions here, which is good because then he's not going to be healing either the Onix or the Cranidos. The Geodude is not that scary. I finish it off and then he sends in Onix. Because it's very defensive, Feint Attack is going to 4-shot, and by the time it had hit me with a few Rock Throws, I started to get a bit worried about the Cranidos. I thought that putting Onix to sleep, avoiding damage, and then knocking it out with Feint Attack would be the best strategy, and then watch Hypnosis miss over and over and over. This was so frustrating. I took so much damage for free, and Onix brings Spiritomb down to 4 hit points. The Onix goes to sleep. Roark even burns his other potion here trying to save it, but it doesn't matter. Now, are you ready for things to be really lucky? While they do level up to 15, I still only have 6 hit points remaining for the Cranidos. Its speed stat is 24, and Spiritomb's is 20, so I'm not going to move first. Unless the Quick Claw activates, Hypnosis hits, Cranidos falls asleep, and then Feint Attack is doing more than half, because Roark's Ace doesn't have an exceptional defense stat. It continues snoozing, and because of this I pull through with a victory on my first attempt, despite all the terrible luck with Hypnosis in the middle against Onix. In retrospect, I think I should have just spammed Feint Attack during this battle, and maybe leveled up to 15 before trying, because I think that would have given me the 3-shot against the Onix and the 2-shot on the Geodude. On my way to Floroma Town, I could have made the choice to fight all of the trainers to get as much experience as possible, working towards Dream Eater. But this wouldn't have given Spiritomb enough experience to get to level 19 before I have to face Commander Mars in the Valley Windworks. This fight is typically quite challenging. Also, the Zubat at the beginning of the battle has Toxic, which can mess things up for more defensively oriented Pokemon. Also, the status condition is brutal when paired with Perugli's Fake Out, but that's not relevant today because of Spiritomb's Ghost type. The Zubat doesn't even try to go for Toxic, and I knock it out over 2 turns. Perugli's next. It goes for Feint Attack, which is doing okay damage. The thing is, my Feint Attacks are doing alright damage to it as well, and Spiritomb is defensive enough to survive all of its hits. At this point in the video, you might be wondering about Spiritomb's nickname. Why is it Dot? Well, when I sat down to do this Halloween-themed challenge, my Halloween-themed wife was organizing all of her horror books, which has now become a core part of her personality and her daily behavior. Anyways, I decided to ask her what a good nickname was for this incredibly spooky Pokemon, and without pausing, she turned to me and she said Wally. Of course, that didn't work because I'm using a female Pokemon, and then she suggested the name Dot, and I just went with it. Inside of Eterna Forest, there is typically one battle that's difficult. This one against the lady who has Pachirisu. Even though I do get paralyzed here, Spiritomb is just defensive enough that this doesn't end up being an issue. And I have taught Dream Eater at this point in the place of Pursuit. So my moveset is Feint Attack, Hypnosis, Shadow Sneak, and Dream Eater. I was feeling pretty confident that this was going to give me a fairly easy win against Gardenia. And then this happened. Her lead is Turtwig, which likes to go for Reflect on turn 1 to set up against physical attacks. This is annoying since I'm using Feint Attack. I didn't want to go for Hypnosis and Dream Eater. It's a pretty inconsistent combo, especially when the enemy is faster than your Pokemon. But the Turtwig is slow enough that Spiritomb is moving first. Still, it takes me a while to knock out because she heals it after setting up with Reflect. I put it to sleep and then eventually knock it out, but I only have half health remaining for the Cherrim who comes in next. Spiritomb weighs 238.1 pounds. Because of this, Grass Knot has a base power of 100 when used against it. And this grass type move is the go-to attack for both the Cherrim and the Roserade. They're doing massive damage. Feint Attack doesn't even do half to her second Pokemon, and then it finishes me with Magical Leaf. I took an alternate approach with my second battle. Put the Turtwig to sleep right away so that it doesn't use Reflect. Then drain its health with Dream Eater and finish it with Shadow Sneak so that it can't wake up and attack. By doing this, I now have full health for the Cherrim that comes in second, but its Grass Knot is still doing roughly 1/3 in damage every turn. But I'm putting it to sleep with Hypnosis, and then I'm going to knock it out over 2 turns with Dream Eater. Unless it wakes up before I attack, and then Dream Eater does absolutely nothing. This gives it more time to set up Safeguard, which blocks Hypnosis. Because of that, I have to resort to Feint Attack or Shadow Sneak. They're not doing enough. She heals, and then Grass Knot finishes Spiritomb again. Okay, so my thinking here is that Hypnosis eventually is going to give me the win, and it's probably going to be faster than just doing additional training at this point in the game. There aren't any more mandatory trainers that I can battle at this point in the game, so there's no way to make progress while also leveling up for this fight. Here's the thing though, Hypnosis is just so inconsistent that I'm not able to defeat Gardenia. I lose 3 more times, and then I decided to do some additional training. The problem is, while I was doing this, I lost all hope because the trainers are inefficient, like this guy, Fisher Zachary. He has 2 Magikarp and 1 Goldeen. This fight provides terrible experience. It convinced me of the fact that I should just go back and fight Gardenia at the current level and win using Hypnosis, even if this is very inconsistent. I get a lucky critical hit one-shotting the Cherrim and move on to the Roserade, but my health is low, and while Feint Attack is doing more than half, her ace has a Citrus Berry, so it heals and then knocks out Spiritomb. It turns out the luck that I need to win here is not luck through Hypnosis. It's actually luck with the Cherrim just not going for good moves. It can choose Leech Seed and then do absolutely nothing when this move misses. Because of this, I'm able to attack it 3 times, sustaining damage from only a single Grass Knot before I knock it out and move on to the Roserade. With green health, this is looking a lot better for Spiritomb. I could have gone for Hypnosis here and put her ace to sleep, then using Dream Eater, which is super effective, but I decided to just go for Feint Attack since I am optimistic that it's going to have the damage range to still 2-shot even though the Roserade has a Citrus Berry. And I end up being right. Despite getting hit by paralysis, I'm able to finish off Gardenia's ace and finally win. This was a really rough fight. I didn't expect to get walled here, but I like Spiritomb's odds against the next gym leader, Fantina, who's a ghost type specialist. Also, I get some key upgrades in this section of the game, because I can visit the old chateau, pick up a rare candy, as well as the Dread Plate, which increases the damage of dark type moves by 20%, bringing Feint Attack's effective power up to 108 after the same type attack bonus. I also pick up the Substitute TM in this section of the game, but since I'm using Hypnosis as my one move of setup, I don't really want to teach Substitute, because I don't want to give up Shadow Sneak or Dream Eater at this point in the run. Commander Jupiter is next. Spiritomb one-shots her Zubat using Feint Attack. Skuntank comes in, I put it to sleep with Hypnosis, since Feint Attack's going to take multiple turns to knock it out since it's resisted. This is slow going, but in the end it's not really a difficult fight. Even when the Skuntank attacks with Night Slash, it's not doing that much damage. I just put it back to sleep, knock it out with more Feint Attacks. It does eventually lower Spiritomb's accuracy with Smokescreen, but this doesn't matter since Feint Attack bypasses accuracy checks. Winning this fight levels Spiritomb up to 25, and here I have the chance to learn Ominous Wind, which is my first special move, and it also has a chance of Omni boosting. I made the decision to give up Shadow Sneak here, which means I don't have priority anymore, and I'm hoping that's not going to come back to bite me against Fantina. There's 2 things to do before I face her. The first one is going into the Wayward Cave to pick up 1 rare candy. This is an item that I'm considering skipping in a lot of these Pokemon Platinum playthroughs. You get access to so many rare candies, and this one takes significant time in order to obtain. I'm still not extremely confident in my abilities playing Pokemon Platinum yet. I don't know all of the ins and outs and when I can skip this safely or not. So for now, I'm still picking it up. Plus, I find in Pokemon Platinum that a lot of the gym leaders earlier on into the game tend to cause problems, and having a bunch of rare candies at this point in the run can be advantageous. The second thing I want to do before Fantina is explore Amity Square. I'm doing this so I can pick up the Spooky Plate, which will increase the damage of ghost type moves. But for now, I'm going to keep using the Dread Plate against Fantina. If I had taught Spiritomb Substitute for this fight, it would be incredibly easy. The Duskull's speed is so low that I would just set up first and then sweep the remainder of her Pokemon. I could even go for Ominous Wind to potentially Omni Boost on the first Pokemon and then one-shot everything else. Here's the thing though, I don't need to waste time with Substitute. I can just one-shot the Duskull using Feint Attack. Mismagius comes out next. It does okay damage with Shadow Ball, however, my Feint Attack just one-shots her ace, leaving only Haunter, which has low physical defense. While it is able to set up with Confuse Ray, which momentarily messes up Spiritomb, it's just not able to do enough damage with Shadow Claw, and I one-shot it as well. The rival in Hearthome City is next. He leads with Staravia. It loves to set up with Double Team, and I don't care because I have Feint Attack. I 2-shot and then he sends in Prinplup. It's not a steel type yet, so Ominous Wind is going to be neutrally effective, and my first attack with this move Omni boosts. Because of that, I'm taking very little damage. I have to 3-hit, but it's just a delay. From there, I continue using Ominous Wind against the Roselia. It's a 2-shot, and I do get hit by Stun Spore. Really annoying, so then against the Ponyta, I might miss moves, but I don't. I just hit with 2 feint attacks, and the rival's final Pokemon goes down. This is about the best performance the rival could have hoped for here. He hit me with a bunch of moves, he got a status condition off, but in the end, it still doesn't matter. On my way through Solaceon Town, I have to make the decision if I want to skip the Mind Plate. This could be useful if I want to buy the Psychic TM from the Game Corner, and that's available as soon as I arrive in Veilstone City, which would make the battle against Meen much more simple. That said, I have Dream Eater right now, and I don't think I'm ever going to buy the Psychic TM, since I would have to synergize so much of my play around earning enough money in order to get it. It costs 8,000 coins, which is 160,000 Pokédollars. And even if I was picking up all of the high-priced items, as well as using the Amulet coin in every single battle, I would not have anywhere near that amount of money upon arriving in Veilstone City. So theoretically it's available, but it isn't really practically in these solo challenges. On my way through Route 215, I stop and pick up the Shockwave TM. This could be helpful against Crasher Wake. Then I battle Dennis, who today is extremely close. I knock out the Buizel, I have half health after this. Drifblim moves first with Ominous Wind, doing an okay amount of damage, and I'm using Feint Attack here, which is making contact, triggering Aftermath, and the ability does so much damage, Spiritomb survives with only 3 hit points. Okay, inside the Veilstone City gym, while I'm pushing around all of these punching bags, I want to talk about spinners in Pokemon Platinum. I have been able to implement code that turns them off so that these random trainers are no longer random within my solo challenges. This makes ranking Pokemon in my tier list so much more consistent. I had the choice to implement this now or wait until I finished my first playthrough series trying to rank all of these Pokemon under the same rule set, but in the end I decided to implement it now since I have made other changes which affect the rankings. Most significant being that I upgraded my CPU and now the game just runs faster. I personally prefer making changes like this as soon as I can because it makes the challenges more fun for me to play. And the more I can make myself enjoy these challenges, the more of them you're gonna get, so it's a win-win I think for all of us. Now Meen is next, a fighting type specialist. I was expecting that the ghost type was going to allow me to sweep her team incredibly easily, but she had a surprise in store for me. Meditite is first. Now, speed interactions here are on a knife's edge. I am tied with the Machoke right now, but slower than both the Meditite and the Lucario. Unfortunately, after Meditite moves first and uses Rock Tomb, I am now slower than the Machoke and I'm never gonna win this speed tie. Luckily, I one-shot her lead using Ominous Wind, but I don't get an Omni boost. Next, she sends in Machoke. This Pokemon is pretty useless against Spiritomb. The only damage dealing move it has is Rock Tomb, and I don't really care about it. I'm using Hypnosis here, not because I have to, but because I want to heal my health before the Lucario comes in. The issue here is that Feint Attack and Ominous Wind are pretty terrible against this Steel type. Dream Eater is also neutral, but its effective power of 100 is more than double Ominous Wind's. So I thought using Hypnosis, putting Lucario to sleep, and then using Dream Eater as primary damage would be my best play. The issue is that after one Dream Eater, Lucario wakes up, so that I'm gonna miss my second attack, and it uses Metal Claw, getting a critical hit, taking Spiritomb down to 14 hit points. This is not enough health to survive the follow-up hit, so Meen ends up defeating me. That was a painful loss. The Lucario's not always gonna get lucky. I am gonna be able to put it to sleep, and yeah, it just wakes up again after one Dream Eater. I can't believe it. Sleep moves are so bad after Generation 1. I hate using them. Anyways, I put the Lucario back to sleep and then use Dream Eater again, draining more of its health. This time her ace sleeps long enough for me to attack twice, giving me the knockout and the victory against the fighting type specialist. On my way to Pastoria City, there isn't really a lot for Spiritomb to do other than fighting trainers. I decided to skip most of this training. The reason is, on the other side of Pastoria City, I'm picking up a rare candy, and there's another one inside of the Great Marsh. Plus I have Shockwave, which solves Wake's Gyarados. I don't think Spiritomb is gonna struggle against him. But maybe I was a little bit overconfident, because then the rival outside of his gym ends up being pretty challenging. The Staravia is able to do almost half with 2 wing attacks before I knock knock it out. Then the Prinplup uses Bubble Beam twice in a row because my Hypnosis missed. Luckily I'm able to put it to sleep and then heal up using Dream Eater 3 times in a row. I thought this meant the fight was going to be easy from here, but it isn't. I take damage from 2 magical leaves from Roselia going back down to red health. Spiritomb levels up, it's back to orange health now, and then Ponyta comes in. Luckily it only has Ember that can damage ghost types, and it doesn't do enough damage to knock me out. Just barely. Spiritomb survives with 3 hit points and knocks out the rival's last Pokemon with Feint Attack. I went right into the gym and I decided to try Crash or Wake at level 36. Let's just see how this goes. I assume I'm gonna have to use rare candies here and likely Shockwave. Gyarados comes in first, triggering Intimidate, then it moves first using Waterfall, causing a flinch and doing roughly 1/3 in damage. It goes for Waterfall again, Spiritomb flinches, and then Gyarados knocks me out on the next turn. This could not have gone worse. I'm so close to leveling up right now. I'm going to fight this Fisher who has a single Pokemon, Whiscash. Once I knock it out, I level up to 37, and this is where Spiritomb learns Nasty Plot. Fighting Wake at level 36 was like the worst possible level to go into that fight at. I deserved to be punished like I was. Now that I'm not going to sacrifice that much experience, I'm also going to use some rare candies, going over 3 damage rounding thresholds to level 43. My strategy here was, let's put the Gyarados to sleep so that we're not going to get flinched over and over with Waterfall, then I'll set up with Nasty Plot and hopefully sweep with Ominous Wind. Things were going very well. I got all the way to +6, but then Gyarados woke up, hit with Waterfall, got a critical hit, flinched Spiritomb, preventing my attack with Ominous Wind, and because it's faster, it attacks again with Waterfall and Spiritomb faints. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's try it again. The issue is that sleep is just really not that consistent in Generation 4. The Gyarados gets me again while I'm trying to set up against it, and this convinced me that going to +6 is probably not the best idea here. Instead, I try to go to +4 in the next battle, but after the Gyarados, I'm still left with very little health. And the Floatzel is faster. It goes for Brine, and since my health is lower than 50%, the damage this move deals is doubled, and it knocks Spiritomb out. I tried switching out the item that I was using, choosing the Shell Bell instead so that I can gain back some health every turn after setting up at the beginning. This doesn't work out either. Still, the Gyarados is just doing too much damage and my health is low enough that Brine one-shots when the Floatzel comes in. Okay, so I hyped it up a lot. What if we teach Shockwave, maybe in the place of Feint Attack since that's a physical move and I basically want to get rid of all of my physical moves at this point in the run. This also doesn't really help things. I just miss against the Gyarados a lot with Hypnosis and then it gets me. I'm sure that I could win this just getting lucky with Hypnosis, setting up Nasty Plot, and then gaining back a bunch of health with the Shell Bell, but I decided to go for the more consistent approach here, which is leveling up. I trained to level 48, and then I used 1 rare candy going to level 49, and this is where Spiritomb can learn Dark Pulse, which I put in the place of Feint Attack, and now with a better same type attack bonus move, I'm sure that Wake is not going to be, no, he's still going to be awful. The Gyarados gets me once again. Anyways, the trick here is just put the Gyarados to sleep, Nasty Plot once, then Dark Pulse is able to one-shot his lead and I have green health left over for the Floatzel. Now it can't do very much damage, it chooses Crunch. Spiritomb shrugs it off, Dark Pulse hits, and his ace goes down. Last is Quagsire, and Dark Pulse gets the one-shot. I don't think I needed to use Hypnosis here, by the way. I can just go for Nasty Plot at the beginning of the fight and tank some damage. I think the key here was leveling to 49 to get access to Dark Pulse. That really changes the math against all of his Pokemon. On my way through the Foggy route, I have a chance to pick up the Shadow Ball TM, which is a great replacement for Ominous Wind if I want increased damage, but it isn't a good replacement for Ominous Wind if I want to have the Omni boosts. And you might think that I abuse moves like that, but it's really just because setup is so fantastic in solo challenges. With Spiritomb having Nasty Plot, I think teaching Shadow Ball in the place of Ominous Wind is the obvious choice now. The problem with my moveset right now, Dark Pulse, Hypnosis, Shadow Ball, and Nasty Plot, is that I don't have good moves against Dark-type Pokemon specifically. And that can be problematic when Cyrus is essentially a Dark-type specialist. My first battle against him is right around the corner in Celestic Town. He leads with Sneasel. Luckily this Pokemon isn't very good. The only move it can hit Ghost-type Pokemon with is Ice Punch. I'm able to set up with Nasty Plot here twice. Sneasel did go for Screech, but I don't really care. I knock it out, heal a little bit, then Golbat comes in. It's not able to do much damage with Air Cutter, and Murkrow's the only Pokemon left. It does have Drill Peck though, and because of Screech, this move does a lot of damage. But Spiritomb has has high defenses. It shrugs it off and one-shots his ace even with not very effective damage. Okay, so I'm heading towards Canalave City, and my current moveset is also really bad against Steel-type Pokemon, which makes me worried about Byron. Maybe Nasty Plot is just gonna give me the win against him though. His Pokemon are quite slow. Before that though, I have to fight the rival on the bridge. He leads with Staraptor. Here, I'm just gonna set up Nasty Plot. Then, with only +2, I one-shot his lead. Heracross is next. I can use Shadow Ball here for a one-shot. Empoleon comes in. Shadow Ball is gonna two-shot, and the Empoleon just goes for Bubble Beam. Yeah, this fight's gonna be really easy. So the rival was sketchy outside of Crasher Wake's gym, but I think that was his only chance for victory. Inside the gym, let's talk about all the trainers that are typically difficult here, which is not Byron. It's usually one of the mandatory NPCs that causes problems. Black Belt Ricky is a good chance for me to test my damage against Steelix, and after one Nasty Plot, I am able to one-shot with a not very effective Dark Pulse. That is a really good sign. Ace Trainer Caesar's Scissor takes 2 hits to knock out after one Nasty Plot, but it's not doing enough damage with X Scissor to be problematic. Worker Gerardo actually causes more problems than anyone else, which is a rare thing to say. His Magnemites are just using Supersonic on Spiritomb while I set up. It's a bit annoying, but unlike Swords Dance, Nasty Plot has no downside when you get confused, because increasing special attack does not increase the damage you deal to yourself in confusion. That calculation is done exclusively with physical stats. Also, I'm just thinking about it right now, but does it make sense for a ghost to get confused and like stumble around and bump into things and hurt itself? I don't know if that makes sense. That's always what I thought was happening whenever confusion would activate, like the Pokemon falls over and it injures itself, something like that. I don't think that makes sense with a ghost. Maybe ghosts should be immune to both poison and confusion. Well, if we follow that logic, I guess ghosts should be immune to everything since they're already dead. The game does need to end up balanced. Everything can't be logical. Ace Trainer Brianna is no problem because she only has Bronzor, so now let's face Byron. I think this isn't going to be a problem after all of these trainers were an absolute breeze. He leads with Magneton, and it likes to go for Metal Sound on turn 1. Also, I am faster than all 3 of his Pokemon. Because of this, I felt very confident setting up Nasty Plot right away. I go all the way to +6. Magneton uses 2 turns of Metal Sound, lowering my special defense by 4 stages. And then it uses Thunderbolt on the final turn, doing more than half, but not enough to knock out Spiritomb. And now that I'm faster and fully set up, I'm going to try to sweep. Dark Pulse one-shots Magneton, Steelix is next, Dark Pulse also one-shots, leaving only Bastiodon. While the Steel-type resists Dark-type moves, the Rock-type does not, so my damage is only halved here, and because of that, the Bastiodon is also a one-hit. In the end, Byron was not an issue at all. Nasty Plot made this one simple. I have 2 very easy battles, one against Saturn, and then the next one against Commander Mars. And then I have a battle that's tricky against Ace Trainer Dalton on my way to Snowpoint City. I hate this battle. I don't one-shot the Electabuzz. I can't believe it. Following that is Magmar. It goes for Will-O-Wisp, burning Spiritomb. Luckily, I am not using physical moves. Also, I don't one-hit the Magmar. I should have set up Nasty Plot on turn 1 here. It would have reduced the number of turns in battle to only 2. I didn't think there would be problems because usually he's a problem because Static or Flame Body activates, but those abilities can't activate when I'm using moves that don't make contact. I wasn't at risk of losing here, but I think Dalton still proved himself as an ace trainer. This guy's really good. I always save in front of him now. Alright, arriving in Snowpoint City, it's time to head into the gym and face Candace. Her lead is Sneasel, and this Pokemon's not very good, giving me time to set up with Nasty Plot. After only 1 turn of setup, I thought that I would have enough damage to sweep through most of her Pokemon. So let's see. With a resisted attack, I one-shot the Sneasel. Alright, that was a critical hit. I think that probably did help. Next, she sends in Abomasnow. This stirs up a Snowstorm, which is going to increase the evasion of the Frostlass because it has Snow Cloak, but I'm still able to one-shot the Grass Ice type. Next, she sends in her Ace. It goes for Double Team on turn 1, so I miss. Unfortunately, I'm taking hail damage every turn. It continues its setup with Double Team, but I don't miss for a second time in a row. Her Ace goes down because I have super effective damage. Last is Piloswine, and proven to us by Price in Generation 2, this Pokemon is not very good. Spiritomb easily one-shots, and I think I was right, 1 turn of setup was all I needed. The next section of the game makes me a little bit worried for Spiritomb because there are 2 tricky battles against Cyrus coming up. The first one is in the Veilstone Galactic building. This battle is significantly easier than the fight against him in the Distortion world, mostly just because his team here is only 3 Pokemon instead of 5. Also, he's leading with a Sneasel, which is nowhere near as good as Houndoom, giving me time to set up if I want to. I went to +2, and then I tried to knock out his lead. It takes 2 turns, and then, while I am able to one-shot the following Crobat, the Haunch Crow that comes in hits with Nightshade, and Dark Pulse isn't able to one-shot. This allows it to attack one more time, and Spiritomb faints. The solution here is really simple: set up to +4 on the Sneasel, then knock it out, as well as the Crobat in a single hit, and while the Haunch Crow does move first by 1 speed, it's not able to knock out Spiritomb with Nightshade, and then I take care of it with a single Dark Pulse. Saturn's really easy. The multi-battle at the top of Mount Coronet is also extremely easy, so now we have to face Cyrus in the Distortion world. Yeah, these two Cyrus fights come really close after each other. It's one of the weird things about the pacing in Pokemon Platinum. I'm not sure I really like it from a game design perspective, but it is how things are. It just makes it feel like Cyrus's team got so much better way too quickly. Like, how was he able to do all of this training? Anyway, I'm going into this with a level 60 Spiritomb. I hope that it's gonna be enough. Cyrus leads with Houndoom. This is problematic because it has Flamethrower and Will-O-Wisp, 2 moves that it can inflict burn with. If I'm taking damage on every turn, then the rest of the battle is going to be so much trickier. Also, if we compare speed stats, Spiritomb is slower than all 5 of his Pokemon. His team is actually quite fast when considered against all of the other AI-controlled Pokemon, with his Crobat being the 2nd fastest Pokemon in the entire game. It's 1 speed faster than Cynthia's Garchomp, and 5 speed slower than Lucian's Alakazam. Because Spiritomb's really slow, it's going to be taking damage on every turn here, and with resisted hits against the Houndoom, after only 1 turn of Nasty Plot, I can't one-shot. I get burned, and I've also taken roughly half damage by this point in the fight. This is not looking good. Haunch Crow is next. It goes for Drill Peck, and then with burn damage after the Haunch Crow survives, Spiritomb is left on red health. Also, Cyrus has healing items, so I'm not going to be able to win. In my bag right now, there are 10 rare candies, so I can go up to level 70, and I decided to. I want to make this fight as easy as possible. With the 10 additional levels, I'm now faster than the Haunch Crow, and I speed tie the Gyarados. Still, 3 of his Pokemon are going to be moving first. The Houndoom causes so many problems with Will-O-Wisp and a bunch of Flamethrowers. I set up to +4, but I'm left with only 2 hit points by the time the Haunch Crow has come in. While Dark Pulse is able to one-shot, the fact that I'm not healing enough with the Shell Bell means that the burn damage just knocks out Spiritomb. This loss made it obvious what I need to do. Put the Houndoom to sleep using Hypnosis, avoid burn entirely, then set up fully with Nasty Plot, and hopefully retain my health during this entire interaction. If I can do that, I should be able to survive all the hits from his remaining Pokemon and one-shot everything. But it's quite the task to pull that off. As you can see, the Houndoom likes to burn. It does right away in the next battle using Flamethrower. But eventually the luck is going to line up for me. Will-O-Wisp will either miss or Flamethrower will not get the burn. And then Hypnosis is going to work and I'm going to be able to get set up. I tried at +4 after getting burned when my health was high, but this doesn't work out. I'm taking just enough damage from all of his Pokemon and burn that when the Gyarados comes out, it's able to finish me off with a critical hit. What is with this species today and its critical hits? It's getting a lot of them against Spiritomb. I reset over and over again. You're gonna think that it's because of burns. The first one was, but then the Houndoom crit 3 times in a row using Flamethrower. After that terrible luck, I finally get what I need. Hypnosis works. I set up all the way to +6, but Spiritomb is afflicted by a burn before I knock out his lead. That said, my health is pretty high and I was feeling pretty good about this fight, so I decided to continue. Maybe if the Gyarados doesn't get a critical hit, I'll win. I could also win the speed tie against it, although I don't. It moves first with Waterfall, luckily not flinching. Shadow Ball knocks it out and I move on to the Crobat, but I only have 32 hit points remaining. This is not looking good. But then Crobat misses with Air Slash. That is a 5% chance. Because of that good luck, I'm able to hit with Dark Pulse and the Crobat goes down. Finally, Spiritomb has cleared Cyrus. The fact that Cyrus is a really difficult trainer means that Volkner, who follows him, is incredibly easy. I just went on autopilot here. I didn't even care about equipping something like a Cherry Berry to heal a status condition. The Jolteon gets paralysis right away, but I don't care. I just sweep through his team even though I have a status condition and Spiritomb is taking damage on every turn. Yeah, he gets me down to orange health. Good job, Volkner. You still weren't able to win. Inside Victory Road, I have to face Ace Trainer Mariah. She has a Blissey, and I only have special moves. It's a good thing that Spiritomb has Nasty Plot, allowing me to set up and knock out the Blissey without too many issues. The rest of Victory Road is quite simple for Spiritomb. I should mention here that this is where the Dark Pulse TM is normally found, so I could pick this up if I want to have a little bit of moveset flexibility, but I don't think I need it. Right now with my current set, I think I have a solution for everything else in the game. If Pokemon are resisted, like Cyrus's team, I can just put them to sleep with Hypnosis and then solve them with over setup from Nasty Plot, which then helps speed me up with my sweep for the rest of the fight. Essentially, Hypnosis is functioning as my coverage moves against all of the Pokemon that I can't hit for good damage with Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball, and if I added Psychic in its place, then I wouldn't have good damage against Dark-type Pokemon anyway, and I would prefer to have Hypnosis in that case. At this point, I was feeling very confident, but there were some surprises just around the corner for me. The rival before the league leads with Staraptor. This Pokemon is not very good against Spiritomb. I just set up Nasty Plot here to +4 and then it U-turns out, sending in Rapidash next. From there, I am able to sweep his team. Even the Snorlax with its outrageous special defense isn't able to survive a single hit. With the rival behind me, Spiritomb is now ready to take on the Elite Four. Aaron's first. Yanmega is kind of annoying because it has speed boost. That said, I just set up Nasty Plot once and I think this is enough for me to sweep the remainder of his team members. Because I'm taking chip damage due to my low speed, I don't want to over set up at the beginning of fights if I can avoid it. And the only two Pokemon I'm not sure if I'll one hit are Scizor, which does survive a hit and then I knock it out, but he uses a healing item here, allowing me to gain back more health with the Shell Bell before the other Pokemon which I'm gonna two-shot comes in, which is Drapion. Because my health is so high and X-Scissor isn't doing much damage, this doesn't matter. Aaron was really simple. Bertha's next. She leads with Whiscash. This Pokemon is easy to set up on because Earth Power isn't doing very much damage. Also, Bertha's Pokemon are quite slow. I am faster than all of them except the Gliscor, which does come in second and do decent damage with Earthquake. However, after that, I just one-shot the Hippowdon, the Golem, as well as the Rhyperior. Okay, jump scare. Flint causes problems. Right away, Houndoom is his first Pokemon. It's a dark type, it also can burn me, and it does right away with Flamethrower. Unlike Cyrus's, it does not have Will-O-Wisp, so it's just getting lucky whenever this happens. I tried again. This time though, I set up to +4, and I take a bunch of damage from the Houndoom, going down to 20 hit points before I knock it out. But I am going to be gaining back health with the Shell Bell. I finish off the Flareon and the Rapidash, but then Infernape outspeeds and takes me down to red health again with Flare Blitz, before the Magmortar comes out, and it moves first, so Spiritomb faints again. That's 2 losses to Flint. Typically, he's a really bad Elite Four member, but today he is causing problems. I think the correct choice here is setting up with Hypnosis, then setting up with Nasty Plot, and after that sweeping. However, this doesn't work out for me because the Houndoom wakes up, takes me back down to low health before I knock it out. This is the same position I was in the previous fight. I didn't think I was going to win. However, in a weird turn of events, Flint completely drops the ball right at the end of the fight. Infernape hits me with Flare Blitz, taking Spiritomb down to low health. And then Magmortar comes in, and instead of choosing Flamethrower, it uses Solar Beam, charging up for a turn, giving Spiritomb 1 turn to knock it out with Dark Pulse. Flint, what were you doing? I should have lost that fight. And if I had, I think I might have got stuck against him for a little while. But with luck on my side, I'm moving on to Lucian, who's gonna be really easy. Mr. Mime is first. I didn't even set up here with Nasty Plot. I am just gonna click A on Dark Pulse and destroy every single one of his team members. Well, except the Bronzong because it lives through everything. Oh, also the Gallade at the end of the battle because I had turned off my brain and I just decided not to use Shadow Ball, instead choosing Dark Pulse. It's not enough damage since it's neutral. After all, Gallade is a fighting type. While they did waste a little bit of time here, it doesn't change the outcome of the battle. Okay, Spiritomb only has the fight against Cynthia left. Spiritomb vs. Spiritomb. The fight starts off in my favor because her Spiritomb is level 58, and mine also has perfect IVs, which hers does not. I take my time here setting up with Nasty Plot. I'm not going to go for Hypnosis because missing is just going to be too risky. Also, her Dark Pulses aren't doing very much damage, so I push my setup all the way to +6 and then knock out the Spiritomb, healing with the Shell Bell back into green health. Lucario is next. It's faster using Stone Edge, but I one-shot healing back into green before Garchomp comes out. And that's good because it goes for Dragon Rush and inflicts a lot of damage, taking Spiritomb down to red health, but that's not enough to knock me out. And as long as I'm surviving, I can continue sweeping her team members. The health I get from the Garchomp allows me to survive the hit from the Milotic on 21 hit points. Togekiss comes in, it goes for Air Slash, gets a critical hit and knocks out Spiritomb. Okay, fine. I tried again. This time I go to +6, and I did use Hypnosis for a little assist against the Spiritomb, so I have more health left over for the remainder of the fight. I thought this was all I would need, but then I just barely don't have enough health, going down to 7 hit points on the Togekiss, and of all the Pokemon, Roserade is faster and knocks out Spiritomb. It's a rare day when this Pokemon contributes to Cynthia's team. So the solution ends up being Hypnosis on turn 1, put the Spiritomb to sleep, then set up Nasty Plot. I have full health because of this, and as a result, Cynthia's team is very easy to sweep through, even though I'm taking damage on every turn. I make it to the Roserade, and because my health is high, it doesn't even choose to attack, just prioritizing Toxic for setup. Spiritomb finishes the game with a time of 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 29 seconds, with 27 resets, 0 blackouts at level 81, with a game time of 7 hours and 1 minute. Alright, so for tier list placement, this is a pretty good result. I was actually shocked that Spiritomb, a slow, defensively oriented Pokemon, actually performed this well. But I know why it was the case. It's because it had Nasty Plot. For example, another Nasty Plot user, Honchkrow, has the top position in the tier list, beating out the god of all Pokemon, Arceus. With its results today, Spiritomb earns itself a position in the A tier, and it has really good company here. It's ranked behind Garchomp and Shaman Sky, and ahead of Lucario and Shaman Land. All incredible Pokemon to do a solo challenge with. One thing I should mention here though is that both Garchomp and Lucario had to evolve during their playthroughs, which is not something that Spiritomb had to do, so in some ways this Ghost Dark type had an advantage against those other Pokemon. I do think if I did Spiritomb again though, I could shave so much time off of this result just planning a little bit better for Gardenia as well as the final Cyrus battle. Okay, one final thing I want to show is the ranking of all of the Dark types so far in Pokemon Platinum. Honchkrow is number 1, Spiritomb is number 2, Weavile is 3, Drapion is a more distant 4th place, and then in last place we have Skuntank. This is mostly because it's a poison type. Next in Pokemon Platinum, I am going to play a legendary Dark type. It's going to be a really fun run, although it might not be quite as easy as you're expecting. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.